Ever wish you could just swap out like all the city noise for just peaceful nature sounds?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Oh, get this. It might actually be like a key to better mental well-being.
Really?
Yeah. So today we're doing a deep dive into sound and how it affects our minds.
Okay, cool.
We've got a ton of research articles, even some ancient wisdom, and it all points to one thing.
What's that?
Sound has a big impact on our mood, stress levels, and even like our focus.
It's true. We don't always think about it, but sound is everywhere, right?
Totally. And I think we often think of it as just like something we hear.
Right, background noise.
Yeah. But, it's actually a physical force.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It interacts with our brains and bodies.
So we're not just talking about like, finding the perfect Spotify playlist here.
No, no, no. It's way deeper than that.
Okay, so tell me more.
Well, especially with natural soundscapes, those are more than just, nice sounds.
Right.
They've got this like incredible complexity, this blend of what scientists call biophony.
Biophony.
Yeah, that's the sounds of living things.
Oh, interesting.
And then geophony, the sounds of the environment itself.
Huh. Okay, so like, give me an example.
Okay, so picture a forest. You've got the rustling leaves, the birds singing, even like a far-off stream.
Yeah.
It all comes together and creates this calming effect.
I mean, I've definitely felt that walking in a forest, like it's just peaceful.
Exactly. And there's a scientific reason for it.
Really?
Research shows that when we listen to those sounds, nature sounds, it triggers the release of dopamine.
Dopamine, that feel-good hormone.
Exactly. And it lowers cortisol, like stress hormone at the same time.
Wow. So it's like our brains are actually wired to respond to nature.
Yeah, it's like nature has this code that we understand on a deep level.
So you're saying just by listening to nature, we can change our brain chemistry.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's pretty wild, but like, how does it actually work?
Okay, so our brains are always processing information from our senses, right? Including sound and different frequencies of sound, they stimulate different parts of the brain. And that influences our physical and emotional states.
So like if you compare ocean waves crashing to a car horn.
Huge difference, right?
Yeah, totally. One's relaxing, the other one makes me jump out of my skin.
Exactly. And those feelings, they're tied to specific brain activity.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
And here's another thing. Those soundscapes, they're not just for us to enjoy.
Okay.
They're vital to the health of the whole ecosystem.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, scientists are using sound recordings to monitor the health of different environments.
Hold on, so you're telling me we can listen to a forest and tell if it's healthy?
Kind of, yeah. It's about recognizing changes in the soundscape.
Okay.
So a healthy forest, it'll have a huge variety of sounds. Birds, insects, frogs, all going at it.
Makes sense.
But if it gets quiet or there's a lot of unnatural sounds, well, that could be a sign of trouble.
Like pollution.
Exactly, pollution or habitat loss.
That's incredible. So it's like nature is trying to communicate with us through sound.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. And you know what's fascinating?
What's that big?
Cultures all around the world have known about the power of sound for healing for centuries.
Oh, yeah. Like, what are some examples?
Well, there's Tibetan singing bowls, indigenous drumming circles, the Australian didgeridoo.
Right, right.
And it's not just about pretty sounds, it's about tacking into something deeper.
I feel like sound healing is having a moment right now.
It is, but it's also ancient wisdom that we're rediscovering.
And modern science is catching up. Like, sound baths, binaural beats, music therapy. It's all being used in clinical settings now.
That's right, for anxiety, PTSD, even chronic pain.
So it's not just a new age thing anymore.
Definitely not. And we're learning more and more about how certain sound frequencies can actually change our brainwave patterns.
Really?
Yeah, it can influence everything from our mood to our sleep.
So like instead of just listening to Mozart to boost your brain power, you could use specific sounds for specific needs.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But we've talked a lot about the good stuff with sound, but we got to talk about the elephant in the room.
What's that?
Noise pollution. All the noise that surrounds us in modern life.
Oh, yeah, right. Good point.
It's like a constant bombardment of sound, and it can't be good for us.
You're right. And while natural sounds can be so therapeutic, noise pollution, it's becoming a real threat to our mental health.
In what way?
Think about it. The traffic, the construction, the constant pings from our phones, our brains never get a break.
It's true. I feel like I'm always trying to block out noise just to have a moment of peace.
Yeah, and that takes a toll. Studies have linked noise pollution to all sorts of problems. Chronic stress, trouble sleeping, difficulty concentrating, even an increased risk of heart disease.
Wow, it's like our brains are on high alert 24/7.
Exactly. They never get a chance to rest and recharge.
So what can we do about it? Do we all need to move to like a silent retreat or something?
Well, escaping to nature is always a great option.
Right.
but there are a lot of things you can do to incorporate healing sounds into your life, even in the middle of all the chaos.
Okay, so tell me more. What can we do?
Well, that's what we'll explore next.
Okay, so we've talked about like the amazing stuff with natural sounds, but also the bad stuff like noise pollution.
Right, right.
So where do we go from here? How can we actually use this knowledge like to, make our lives better?
Well, one really exciting thing that's happening is this whole resurgence of sound healing practices.
Oh yeah, you mentioned things like sound baths and binaural beats and music therapy earlier.
Exactly. And those are just a few ways that sound is being used to intentionally promote healing and well-being.
I've heard of sound baths, but I'm not really sure what they are. Can you explain it?
Yeah, totally. So imagine this. You're lying down in a room, it's kind of dimly lit, and you're surrounded by all these instruments.
Okay, what kind of instruments?
Like crystal singing bowls, gongs, chimes, things like that.
Okay.
And the practitioner plays them, and it creates these super rich and soothing sounds that just wash over you.
Okay. I can already feel myself relaxing just thinking about it.
Right, and that's a big part of it, that deep relaxation.
But it's more than just that, right?
Yeah, there's actually more going on. So those sound frequencies from the instruments, they can slow down your brainwave activity.
Oh, wow.
And that brings you into a meditative state, which can be super healing and stress reducing.
Interesting. Some people even use nature recordings, right? Like ocean waves or forest sounds.
Yeah, exactly. It adds to that immersive experience.
So it's like this full-on sensory immersion in sound just to shift your brain into a calmer state.
That's a great way to put it.
What about binaural beats? I've heard those are good for focus.
They can be, yeah.
How does that work?
So binaural beats therapy uses specific sound frequencies, but it's kind of tricky.
Okay.
They create a third tone that only your brain perceives,
Oh.
and that can influence your brainwave patterns, and different frequencies can create different brain states.
So like if you want to relax,
Right, you could listen to binaural beats in the theta frequency range.
and that mimics like deep meditation.
Exactly. It's like a shortcut to that relaxed meditative state.
So you just put on headphones and your brain does the rest.
In a way, yeah. And then there's music therapy, which is becoming more and more common in clinical settings.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So this uses music, both listening and creating it, to address all sorts of needs: physical, emotional, cognitive.
So it's not just listening to like Mozart to get smarter.
No, not at all. There's a real science behind it. Music therapists are trained professionals,
Okay.
and they know how to use music in very specific ways to help people.
Like what are some examples?
They might use calming nature sounds or rhythmic drumming to help patients relax, manage pain, even process trauma.
Wow, it's amazing that sound can have such a big impact on us.
It really is, and the exciting thing is we're just starting to understand how powerful it can be.
Yeah, it's like we're rediscovering this ancient wisdom and combining it with modern science to create these amazing tools for healing.
I like that.
But, these practices are gaining popularity, but we're also living in a world that's getting noisier and more chaotic.
That's true. It's a tough balance.
So how do we balance the healing power of sound with the fact that we're surrounded by noise pollution?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Mhm.
We've talked about how bad noise pollution is,
Mm-hmm.
but the good news is there are things we can do to fight back.
Okay, give me the good stuff. What can we do?
Well, first, just become aware of the sounds around you. Take a minute to really listen. What do you hear? Are there any sounds that are super annoying or stressful?
So it's like mindfulness, but for our ears.
Exactly. And once you start paying attention, you can start making choices.
Okay, like what?
Maybe you ditch that annoying alarm clock and wake up to birdsong.
Okay.
Or you create a playlist of nature sounds to listen to while you work.
I actually do. I listen to ocean waves while I'm writing. It helps me focus.
There you go. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated, right?
Not at all. Even something small like a water fountain in your home or office can make a difference.
Or if you're lucky enough to have it just open a window and let in the sounds of nature.
Exactly. And here's another important thing. Don't forget about silence.
Silence.
Yeah. Sometimes the best sound is no sound at all.
That's so true.
Just a few minutes of quiet time each day can do wonders.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. But we've talked a lot about nature sounds. What about music? How can we use music more intentionally?
That's a great question. I think a lot of times we just kind of put on music that we like in the moment,
Right, just whatever feels good.
Yeah, but maybe there's like a smarter way to think about it.
Oh, definitely. There is. It's about tuning into how different types of music affect you.
Okay.
And not just emotionally, but physically and mentally too.
Right, because some music that makes one person feel calm might stress someone else out.
Exactly. It's super personal.
So it's not as easy as saying like, oh, classical music is relaxing or
Yeah.
upbeat music makes you happy.
No, not at all. It's way more nuanced than that.
Okay. So what should we do?
Experiment, try different genres, tempos, instruments, even music from different cultures. And pay attention to how it makes you feel. Does your heart rate change? Does your mind feel clearer? Do you get energized?
Huh. Yeah, now that you mention it, I have certain songs that I always put on when I need like a boost of energy or when I'm feeling stressed.
So you're already doing it. You've created your own little music therapy toolkit without even realizing it.
That's pretty cool. And what if you want to get even more creative?
You could try making your own music.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Even just drumming on a table or humming can be therapeutic.
I love that it's like we all have this inner musician just waiting to come out.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And, maybe by tapping into that creative energy, we'll find new soundscapes that help us heal.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So throughout this deep dive, we've talked about how sound can be both good and bad for us.
Right, it can be a source of stress, but it can also be a powerful tool for healing.
We learned about how nature sounds can calm our minds, and how ancient sound healing practices are being rediscovered, and how we can all create healthier soundscapes for ourselves.
Exactly, and I think the key takeaway here is that we have more control over our sound environment than we realize.
Yeah, we can make choices about the sounds we let into our lives and how we use sound to support our well-being.
Absolutely, and it's an ongoing journey. It's about paying attention, experimenting, and finding what works for you.
This has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the power of sound.
It's been my pleasure to share this with you, and to our listeners, I encourage you to keep exploring.
Yes, keep paying attention to the sounds around you, make conscious choices, and see how sound can transform your life.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into sound and mental health. Until next time, happy listening.